And so we're back. Hello. First order of the day, I'm back on the lathe, the Rotary, and we're going to make a bushing so that as the slide is spinning around, I'm not binding on sharp, gnarly cast. It's going to be on a nice bronze bushing. So just drilling out, I'm going to do a precision hole and then push fit into here, turn down the OD. So I bought that, taking that out with taper drills. So that's the full depth that I've got. I'll set the carriage stop because I've got one. So now I'm just going to be boring this out, then measure the bore with a bore mic. Well, I say that it'll be a telescope gauge and micrometer. Okay. So we're winning. We've done the ID, we've got that done, and now bringing this down to pretty much 3/4, and taking off a 50 thou cut here. So and that's actually getting quite warm. But it's great fun, isn't it? Because yes, it looks so pretty. Wowzer. Right, keep going. So we're wanting to part off to about 745 thou. So I've got a 0 there. I've set the travel to 0 and I've got a micrometer down on the bottom. So 600, 700, there we go, 745, 745. So that should be the length that I'm wanting. I'm going to part off there now. There we are. Mighty mag. Bit of a pain to use actually on this lathe. So I'm not going through. So shout that side. Looking good. So I can still see where I want to be in the groove. Now I'm going to finish out the diameter and press it in. Well, finish out the diameter, part it off, press it in. This should cut it off pretty clean because the cutter's just canted. And it's left the mucky bit at that end. It's clean on that end. So there we go. Right, happy days. One bushing. Okay, after a lot of fiddling around, a lot of faffing on, I've been just touching it with a high-speed steel tool which can take a much lighter cut. We're there, aren't we? So my post fits real nice, holding here. My bush is in. My top slide sits on, and now I'm going to measure up where the thread needs to finish. I know I've got plenty of length here. Make plenty of thread and then cut down to length. So we're coming along. So my tool's going to thread this bit now. My tool's square to the job. I've checked it on my chut. I've decided on 28 threads an inch because I can. Okay, that's touching. So I'll do a scratch pass every 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Come out. So last one. We've gone 22,000. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm calling that done. So I'll clean that off with my little brush and just gently put a file across the top. It's not the finest thread in the world. If I went finer than that, I don't know what the metal is going to do. I don't know if it's going to all peel up and be horrible. So I'm sticking with this. It's a fine thread. Right. Now I've got to make the nut. Speed it up a little bit. As I was starting to have to push on that tool, I could feel it. So it's cutting nicely, not pushing. Loads of oil hitting it. Somewhere in here is our nut, so let's get at it. Please. Smoking! Alright, we're poking a hole through the nut. With a decent drill. So, sit rep, we're getting ready to thread. We've got a little bit of nut section that goes over, or that goes inside the bearing there, so that's good, just the right length. I've taken it inside the bearing to support the bearing, stop it wonking off to the side, and also to get extra threads on the nut because it's so short. I've got a boring bar, so I'm going to bore inside from this point here that way to give thread relief. I'm only threading the first section. This here is going to be the driver, so I'm going to make a nut with dowels that come through, fine dowels. And this face and this face are the only faces that need to be true to the thread. So I can take this out, drill through with my dowels, put a spanner head on here so I can put a socket on it. Yeah, that other boring tool was not going to make it, was it? Okay, so I'm just going to make sure that I get to that's where I want my thread relief running from. And I'll come inside the bore and bore that out. I'll take about, I know the thread depth should be about 22 thousandths, so I'm going to take about 30 thousandths. So this is the thread relief inside the driver nut. I've touched off, so I know where my zero is. I'm going to chamfer lead going to put 5 thou cut on, and I'm on 3s. 1, 2, 3, 4. Back to 0. Back out. On 3s. 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. And so on and so forth. And I'll keep going until that fits. Ha 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 ha. We're screwing in and out with a little bit of a wiggle. There we are. So now onto the mill. And so to the E-speed mill. We're on the mild claw index head. I'm centered up. Pretty good. I'm going to put a hex on the top, then I'm going to drill my pins through, and that hurt. You know, you get older, things hurt more. Crazy. That hurt. Right, so let's put that hex head on. I've marked up in black where I want to be, so I'm going to spin this around lock off. So what I'm going to do is cut 2 faces, get it set up for a 3/4 spanner or whatever's near. This is such a lovely mill, honestly. Just, this is gorgeous. Right, okie dokie, big and a pokey. We've set the stop on the table. So I'm going to take a little bit more, nudge up to it, and then I'll do the other faces. But if we just recenter, lock the table off. Sort of centered in this way and this way. Then what we're going to do is drill out so we can have a pin here and here, drill right through to the underside, okay, and that'll be the driver. This will be a custom made driver to suit my rating nut. Alright, so in order to get it in the middle of the work, I'm going to just create a little pocket with this end mill and go from there. So our little bit of land that we created with the mill has now given us a land for my drill to come down. That's given me a centre, unlock, spin round, lock, okay. Now I take my drill, which will be undersize, and then ream it. Okay, so I'm now on my slower speed, which isn't very slow, but anyway, it'll do. And we're going to ream that out. Oh yeah, that's reaming. Right, well that seems to have done it. spin round, remount the other one. I'm probably a bit closer to the edge than I wanted, but hey, life ain't perfect. And how did that go? Well, pretty good. We've made a wrench to fit in with a custom nut and bolt, and it's a good snug fit, so I can use that to preload the whole system. Right, more to come. I've finished out the stud to hold the top slide on. I've screwed it in good and tight. There it is. Underneath it goes right the way through, so it's holding itself exactly where it wants to be. And with the whole thing together as it is now, I'll put a grub screw in here so that it engages both the stud and the base, and then the thing won't rotate. So we'll be doing a grub screw on there as well. We're going to just put a 3/16 Whitworth grub screw just between the stud and the cross slide. This has been glued in, so I don't want to disturb it at all. I know that's being held bob in the right place. Working just here, this drill wants to wander, so I'll put a real stubby on drill in there now. Let's pick that cent up again. Okay, we've now got the book of words there, and we know our 3/16 tapping drill's 3.7mm. So we're drilled out to size, and we've got a tap follower, sprung tap follower. And it's cutting horribly because on one side it's into cast, and on the other it's into random metal. Well, I got there. I was blowing out the bottom of the hole with a Venflon needle adapter, you know. There we go. So I wasn't getting chips in the bottom of the hole. I was babying it, so I'm doing it by hand. I marked out the depth that I was drilling to, and yeah, you guessed it, tap just exploded. And in spite of the fact I know I've got plenty of tapping depth there, because I re-drilled, it's exploded my tap. So there we are. But we've got our grub screw in there now. So now this post is solid, it won't rotate. And if I stuff it up, I can put another one over here, all right, in the future. Across the nut I need to put a grub screw so that when I get the correct tension I can lock it off and then it won't unscrew itself. You know, I could have done a variety of ways of doing this. I didn't want to split this nut and have a tensioner going, you know, across it. I didn't want to section it and screw a grub screw into it. We're going to just put a grub screw straight in, going straight onto that thread. It's sort of the simplest. So I've marked off on the side where I need to drill through. I'll take this off, drill through the correct height, put it back on, drill into the nut and tap the nut. We've got the cross slide the top slide's on the parallel, so I know that's plumb, so I know when I drill through I'll be drilling through square. I've marked up on this side where the centre of the hole is. I'm going to go through here for my access for my grub screw. Then I'm going to make a mark on this nut. I'll rotate it back around a little bit so it's dead in the middle. Then I'll take it all to pieces, drill and tap the nut, and then I'll come back and I'll enlarge this hole with a bigger drill. So poke a hole in the centre of this. What I'm going to do is mount my job up in a 5C collet holder. First of all, I'll find the centre so that I'll know where I am. Right, that's pretty much vertical. Central. My vice is trammed, but that part wants to come popping out the end. So if I'll put a block on, nudging it to that so the part can't pop out. Bear with. Now when I drill into this piece, it's not going to fall out. I'm going to be dead central, cushy. Right, microphone's died. So I've taken a piece of brass rod, turned it down to the diameter of the hole I've just drilled. Focus, thank you. And I'm going to make a little plug so that when I put the grub screw in and tighten it up onto the thread, I'm not going to nobble that thread, and I'll cut it to the right length. We'll get the work back in the vise, same position, everything's not moved, and drill through. We'll tap it so that I don't nobble the threads inside. I've got a cut off from the original center pivot, which is threaded. I'll mount that up and I'll run that through to clean the threads. Top slide's now bob on solid to the cross slide. We've got thousandths clearance on the rotation center, but the tail end is just catching, so I need to do some relief, and I'll radius a cut to free up that back end so that we're not fouling. There we go. There's my rotation center. I'll bring a cut round and then deck the rest. So it's rotary table time. I've centered it. I'm going to center a mounting plate. I don't need to, but I will. Then I'll bolt this down. Rotary table centered, plate centered, workpiece centered. We're all center. So I'll drop this down, drop the center out. There we go. So that's that. Then the piece of resistance, as they say, if I'm lucky, which I am, I've picked up a fixing a stud in the deep down in the T-slot. So that's grand. So welcome to the underside of the rotary table. Yeah, my stud's not in the T-slot, is it? Stupid man. It's captured underneath so the table can rotate and the table sits on top of it. Better view, isn't it, really? So the stud will go through and pick up this nut. I've taken it to pieces to plumb and show you. That's a good setup, and we should be able to happily mill across here, and I don't think we'll get too much of a chatter issue. I'm going to make some nice handles for this one day when I get the ball turning attachment. What I've done is I've put engineer's clamp on the end to stop this vibrating. When I get more towards that, I'll put a toe clamp on there, and the reason for that is life's too short. I'm going to cut both ways. I need my gloves back on. So. Okay, we're doing a 25 thou depth of cut. We're moving out. The cutter essentially is moving in this direction. Table moves this way. And I'm just steadying it here with these clamps. I'm only cutting now with the table coming towards us. That means that the cutter's effectively cutting in this direction and it's spinning that way. When the table's coming back round this way, it's climb milling, and it was starting to judder and be horrible. But we're getting a good finish. Okay, so it's only a potato sack weight. It's cheap cast, it's rubbish really, but it's coming along. I'll take the engineer's clamp off in a minute and proceed this way, then I'll come back to there and re-mill the whole thing. Righto, we're heading this way, which means the radius of your cut is getting larger, which means that as I'm moving the table, I'm slowing it down. If you keep turning the handle at the same speed, it's really chunking it off. I'm going to take another 20 thou, but I'm pretty happy with that. Good. And I'll relieve this edge before I do so, as the cutter's coming off, it doesn't just chip the stuff away. Next up, we'll just break this corner here. So I'll just mark that with the stubby pen. Brilliant mini marker pen, can't go wrong, because they don't go dry before you get to the end of them. And I'll hit that on the radius with this cutter. It's just a chamfer cutter, so take it just above the deck and just kiss it. Back at the Senior ELT, there's lots of little jobs I'm going to have to do before I can put the whole thing together. There's a boss that goes inside here, captured by a grub screw on each side. I didn't know the grub screw was there, so of course I've nobbled it a little bit. So I'm set up now, and I'm going to just refinish these two flats where the grub screw engaged. If I pull the table, I just happen to have external jaws sitting on this dividing head, so I'm going to come backwards and forwards, and there's a knobbly patch here. I'll bring you around the side. So there you go, you can see it's a bit nobbled. I'll tidy that one up, just smarten it up, and then I'll do the same on the other side. I'm going to show you a few setups of what I'm doing, and not so much, you know, the cutting. You know what the cutting looks like, but the setups help you along, give you an idea. Oh, that's how that piece came along. Thanks for watching. I'm going to put this bad boy together next time. Brilliant.